Dave Palumbo here with an RX Muscle News Update. And I'm joined with my good friend, Tony Doherty from Arnold Australia out there in Sydney. How's it going out there? Actually, in Melbourne, sorry.
That's better.
I hear you. Gym's open. That's a good thing.
Yeah, man. You know, it's so good to be open again, Dave, and to see all the members back. You're enjoying the renovations and the atmosphere and the equipment. And look, it was a really tough lockdown here, but I think there's only like 30 total cases of community transmission in all of Australia at the moment. We did 61 days straight with no community transmission, and then we had like 4 days with a few cases, and now we're back to our 7th or 8th day with 0 community transmission. So, you know, Australia has really contained it well, and let's hope we continue to do so.
So it seems like the lockdown worked over there, at least.
Well, you know, no one liked it, but it did seem to work.
You can't argue with the results, right? I mean, come on.
Yeah, look, they got a few things wrong early on, particularly here in Melbourne, where the guards at the quarantine hotel were spreading it. But once they got on top of that and did it properly, you know, so if you fly into Australia now as a returned citizen, you have to do 2 weeks in a quarantine hotel.
Right.
And they have, like, you know, the army and police guarding the hotel. You can't leave your room, period. Or your 2 weeks starts again. And that seems to have worked fantastically, because most of the cases we're getting are in the quarantine hotels. And then they've got to get a negative test before they let them out and so on. And going forward, I think anyone coming into Australia will have to have a test before they come and so on. You know, the difficult thing here is that the state borders have been shut, which is probably something you guys should have thought about in the States, because each state contained the virus. And now we're kind of come up with, I guess, a traffic light system where if you come from a green zone, you can travel anywhere. If it's an amber zone, you've got to have a test. And if it's a red zone, don't travel.
Really?
So, you know, look, it seems a bit draconian at the time. But, you know, seeing all the people out and about, and, you know, the bars are open and nightclubs are open, the restaurants are open, the gyms are open. So it's a good feeling.
Are you guys getting the vaccine there, or what's going on with that?
They haven't actually settled on which one they approve of yet.
Oh.
So they're looking at all 3 of them, you know, the Pfizer one, the Zeneca one, and so on. I think the government had bought 10 million or 20 million vials of one of them, but it's the one that's only proving 65% efficiency. So I think they're looking at the other ones now that are like 95%. And basically, they're not going to allow anyone to travel into Australia until they've approved, I guess, of a vaccine. So if Russia's got one and they don't approve it, then that won't be on their list. And then if they approve the US, the Zeneca one or the Pfizer one, I imagine the world's going to develop, you know, if they don't microchip us all, it'll be like a digital passport, like a health passport, where you have your medical records on some sort of digital stamp.
Interesting.
But, you know, I can't see any international travel coming into Australia until at least 2022.
Wow, really?
Yeah,
that's severe.
They're really strict on it. So, you know, that's you know, for me who travels all the time, it's been crazy to be stuck here for so long. You know, I couldn't come to the Olympia, which was that was a killer. You know, like Dave, you know how much I enjoy the Olympia and working backstage and running things there with Frank.
Of course.
And seeing you and Jay and you know, Mel and Jim and all the crew.
Jim didn't go. I didn't go. And you know what? It was a good move because a lot of people got COVID there. Dexter got COVID. Milos got it. There was a lot of good people who got COVID, you know.
Yeah. What, they got it from the Olympia?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's a lot of cases of it. I don't want to go and recite everyone off, but I am just reciting the people who went on record as admitting that they got it. But there were a lot more than that, I can tell you off camera, of people who got COVID there, because they weren't implementing, you know, strict enough, I guess, mask restrictions and 6 foot, you know, distancing. I knew that was going to happen. You know me, I'm like you. Everyone's all over me. Everyone's going to say, "Hey, Dave, what's up?" And I would have definitely brought it home to my family, and that wouldn't have been, you know, that wouldn't have been acceptable. So that's why I didn't go, even though it was only a 2-hour ride from my house. You know.
Oh, you didn't go?
No, I didn't. No, I sent Chris Aceto and Sid there, and I didn't want to take a chance.
I thought when it was in Florida, you'd be just. Oh, this
I
is
believe
so
me, I
easy.
wanted to go, but it's not worth it. I couldn't jeopardize I got 3 young kids. My wife who runs the businesses. We can't afford to get it. My mother-in-law watches the kids.
Yeah,
Too dangerous.
I agree. And I was glad that Jim Mannion wasn't able to go because he's in that age group where you don't want to get it.
He's vulnerable. Anyway,
You know what? Anyway, what a great Olympia it was, man. I was so happy to see Ramy in shape.
Yeah, and finally, right?
Oh, dude, people said, "Do you really think he deserved to win?" I said, he was first, second, and third. Then there was daylight, and then there was everybody else. So fighting over 4th place.
Well, looking back at what it took to get him in shape, I mean, Chad bringing him in 3 weeks early, hooking him up with Dennis, so that Dennis would train with him and kind of watch over him. That just goes to show you that probably what the problem was that Ramy just wasn't being strict enough those last 3 weeks. Which is, the hardest part, right? That's when you feel like death, when you want to cheat, when you feel like, you just can't do it. If you have someone there watching you and pushing you through that, and some people need that. Some people don't. Some people are self-motivated. But he obviously needed that, and that was the right push because now we saw a different Ramy on stage with a different level of conditioning. And because of that, he dominated. When he's at his best, we knew no one would beat him, right?
Yeah, man. They've been saying since he turned pro. I remember, Kai and Phil both said to me, if ever this guy nails it, we're all screwed, And, every year I see Ramy backstage and he'll tell me, Mr. Tony, I'm 300 pounds. So I'm saying, why don't you lose 15 pounds?
Right.
You'll win the show because you'll still be the biggest guy there.
Yep.
So I think that's part of it, Dave, is he just had this number stuck in his head that to be big, he had to be a certain weight.
Yep.
Without realizing, the illusion of being 10, 15 pound lighter and looking even fucking bigger. Which he did, and great job with Chad and with Dennis working with him. It was certainly the dream team, and I'm super happy for the guy. I think it's good for the bodybuilding. It's good for the world. It'll certainly be great for Egypt, and you can see the adulation he had when he went home, and they'll be building statues of him alongside the pyramids. This is a really big deal, and I think that he's genuinely one of the truly humble guys in the sport. He's never changed since the day I met him,
Right.
I remember when my little girls were the same age as your kids and he was in the gym and he knelt down so he was the same kind of height as them.
Yeah.
And he never forgot their names 5 years later.
Wow.
I thought that's a real dude, man. That's really classy.
Yeah, no, he's I don't think I've ever heard him say anything bad about anyone. And I've criticized, been very critical of him a lot, and he's still, he went up when I sent Sid to the Olympia. He interviewed with Sid, even though I know he wasn't happy with some of the stuff we said. But you know what? I'm a journalist, and I have to critique people's, actions. I have to critique their physiques, and so sometimes, it's tough love. But I'm glad he won the Olympia because I've been one of his biggest fans, since he came out in 2013 and won that at New York Pro. The thing I want to talk about, though, is the Arnold Australia with you because, and look, we talked about this the last time I had you on the show before the new year. You said to me, Dave, this is not going away that fast. I can't see myself holding a pro show, an international pro show in Australia in March. It's probably not going to happen. You were right. Obviously, you're postponing on Arnold Australia. Explain to me because there's people out there saying, the show is being canceled permanently, which I knew was not the case. I don't know why Nick Trigilli put that out there on his Instagram, but what's going on there? Give me the lowdown.
Someone sent me that, and I'm like, who is this guy? I didn't even know who he was. He's certainly not a journalist because the first charter of journalism is to check your facts.
Yeah,
I know with you over 20 years of working with you, you always send me a message say, "Hey, is there any truth in this?"
Right.
Sometimes it's an uncomfortable truth that I have to tell you, but look, the truth is this: nobody knows what's going on. I can't talk about Columbus or Brazil or Spain or any other Arnold, Africa. But I can tell you, with the Australian Arnold, to do it in March, which is less than 2 months away, would be impossible because it takes 6 to 12 months to put something together of that scale.
Right.
We certainly can't have any international pro show here. So what we're doing is going ahead with our amateur bodybuilding, as we did this March gone, to give everyone an opportunity to do the pro card. So we're still going to have like an Arnold Pro qualifier, either here in Melbourne or in Queensland. We're working on that now.
Good.
But and we're going to do a pro bikini show, which might give an Australian girl a chance to qualify.
Yeah,
for
there you go, right?
So
no competition from any other countries, that's for sure.
Right. Well, we'll get a couple in from New Zealand, but certainly someone from this area. Because the truth is, I'm not going to be able to bring pros in. Look, or Arnold or Bob or anyone, yourself included. I think for all of 2021, like we're looking at a November date to do the Arnold Expo, but we'll probably scale it down a little bit, just have bodybuilding, powerlifting, and strongman, have it a little bit smaller, and just do like pro bikini and pro men's physique, because there's enough pros here to make up those divisions.
Right.
And not to have the Australian Pro Open bodybuilding until 2022. Because the way the government's talking here, that unless there's a worldwide, generally accepted vaccine and everyone's vaccinated, they're not going to let them in.
Gotcha.
For example, the Australian
So it has
Open,
nothing to do with you. It's the government that just basically has locked down Australia, basically.
Right. So this is the thing, and it's changing because, for example, I do a show with Josh as my business partner over in Perth, where we've got a gym.
Yeah.
And they shut the borders hard there because there was one case in Melbourne at the time. I think 5 cases in Sydney and 4 cases in Queensland. So Western Australia just did a hard border close. So we can't travel there without doing 2 weeks quarantine in a hotel at $3,000.
Oh my God.
And,
shoot.
Right. So they've got really strict. So this is, we talk about controlling your controllables. I'm not in control of this situation. So what we can do is to try and get a date locked in November for an Arnold Sports Festival, and hopefully people will be vaccinated. We can travel more. Hopefully, even if just our state borders are open, we can make it work. But it's certainly not going away. If Arnold can't come and can't travel this year, well, so be it. And, as far as I'm concerned, whatever shape it's in, I'll always do the Australian Pro, and I'll always do my expo with it.
Sure.
And hopefully we can have the Arnold Sports Festival back, worldwide, thriving again. But it might be a couple of years. And this is where people have got to be, instead of saying stupid things and assuming things and making shit up, is to check their facts and understand that none of us want to make these hard decisions. I mean,
right.
I spoke to Dan Solomon a couple of weeks before the Olympia, and I just said, I'm just so proud of you, Dan, being not just being able to move it from Vegas to Orlando in a 3 or 4 week period, but making that decision to push that button.
Yeah.
Because what if you get it wrong? What if you get it right?
Sure.
And as a promoter, I can tell you these decisions don't come easy, Dave. You sweat on it for nights and nights and nights, and eventually you think, shit, if I leave it any longer, then there's no chance of surviving.
Right.
So we've had to make some hard calls. And it's not just me. It's the same in Columbus and in Brazil, and imagine in Spain and in Africa where we do Arnold's, that these decisions have to be made. And unfortunately, it's not something we're in control of. So that's what I got to say about it. We love doing what we do. Dave, we've been doing interviews for 21 years or something. You know how passionate I am about the sport and the expos. Mm-hmm. Even when I take a loss, I'm happy. I just love, being able to do what I do.
Yeah.
And, we're not about to stop anytime soon. However, this shit, none of us could have thought up. We had this conversation 15 months ago. We'd punch each other in the head for lying.
Yeah, absolutely.
You'd be afraid. You say, Dave, you've got to get some help. You've got to get a psychologist, maybe some medication or something, because you've lost your mind. Instead, we're faced with this thing. And I think everyone thought January 1st, we're going to wake up and it's a new world. Everything's going to be fine.
Yeah.
I said this to you in our last interview. I said, this is going to go on for a while.
Yeah.
So, man, I'm just happy to have the gyms open. I'm back training again. I'm actually doing some personal training again for the first time in years because I've got time. I went out and bought a little puppy because I can't travel. That's the only reason I didn't have a
You might as well, right? You got something to take care of now, yeah.
Right, so my kids are happy. The members are happy. Australia's in pretty good shape. And I look at the numbers, in Florida and even in LA County where they're getting like 15,000 new cases a day in one county. I'm like, what the hell's going on over there? And then you guys look like you're on the brink of civil war, just to add a little bit of salt to it.
Yeah, exactly, right. Yeah, nothing like mass congregations and protests to spread the COVID a little bit more. I will say one thing, though, about the Arnold Australia. I know you'll probably hold the expo and everything, like you said, at the end of the year. And even though no one will come in from any other country, I'm making a prediction. You could tell me if I'm right after the show's over, but you'll make more money probably not having it open to international competitors because you'll have the same amount of people come to see the expo and you won't have to fly all these people in and give away massive amounts of prize money. So you'll make out probably better off this way, even though the fans obviously want to see the pros and all that stuff.
Yes and no, Dave. I mean, there's two parts to that. One, Yeah, the pro show now, it's the total prize money in US dollars about 105. With the sanction fees added on, it's about 200,000 Australian dollars just in prize money and sanction fees. Then I pay for every single athlete's hotel
Right.
when they're here, even the nobodies. I've always done that because
Sure.
the people starting out probably can't afford a hotel.
Yep.
So I pay for all the athletes'
Which is
hotels.
awesome. Yeah.
I pay for the top 5 in each category to fly in, and then the new guys can get their own flight or get sponsored.
Right.
And one of the comments that idiot made was, so many athletes got dicked around and lost money coming in. Well, that's not true, because I paid for all the flights of all the top guys and girls, and I lost money on the hotel booking. So I'd never screw around the athletes. That's a bit I'd kick back at, because I've always been the promoter that looked after the athletes the best, and I'll never stop.
You feed them, you fly them in, you shuttle them around. I've seen you in action over there. It's amazing what a first-class operation.
With the expo is that a lot of the big supplement clothing companies will bring in, a big influencer or a UFC fighter or this and this. So without that, that probably hurts the expo. So I think the bodybuilding side of it kind of breaks even. If I do it, it costs me that much, but it brings that much in. If I can it, then it doesn't cost me anything, but I don't get any return. But probably where it hurts the expo is, all the pros that come in off their own dime with their sponsor or the influencers that bring the people in. But, the costs do come down without all the hotel bills. So, look, I don't know, man.
You're going to make money. You'll see, because you know why? Because people are desperate to have a bodybuilding expo to go to. They're in withdrawal. It's not what it was getting like is there was too many of them. Now there's nothing. You're going to have this expo. All the Australian and New Zealand people are going to flock to this thing, the bodybuilders and all the fitness people who work out, just to experience it and do something, because people are so sick of lockdowns.
Look,
I'm telling you,
there's no doubt.
I predict you will do great on that Arnold expo.
Thank you. The problem is, and the reason I had to cancel March, like I had to actually push the button, is the government cannot give me density limitations and requirements right
Absolutely,
now.
You can't do that. You can't
how
have
many
that,
people per square meter. So if they come out and say you can only have 20% capacity, then the fans can be as crazy as they want. They can't get in. And I'm not going to do that. Because everyone loses. They lose, I lose, everyone loses. So hopefully later in the year, things will open up. And look, they're doing stuff with other sporting events where they're starting to let the capacity go from 25 to 30 to 50%. Once we get up to that kind of 70%, 75%, I'll take it.
Let me ask you this question. When do you think the Olympia is going to be this year?
Where or when?
When and where?
Look, I don't know. I think moving it's been a good thing, because it's shown, I guess, the organisers, the athletes, the officials, that it doesn't have to be in Vegas.
Right.
I actually used to enjoy it when we'd move around. 1 year it was in Long Beach, and 1 year it was in New York,
too.
1 year it was, and so on, Atlanta 1 year, and all that. Having said that, Vegas has been a good hub for it, but once again, they're going to be controlled by the limitations of the quotient of density of people they can have in, and they're going to have to make a decision so they don't lose a shit ton of money again. Look, I wouldn't be surprised if it's pushed back later in the year again, because I think that's a safer bet. Like, if it was me and Dan and I and Jake were talking, I'd say, look, why don't we just push it out to November or December again, because there's more chance of having more people in.
I agree.
Being able to fly in if we just push it back a little bit. So, I'd love to see it back to its September, October roots again, maybe next year. And
because
as for location, it's not my say or decision, but I'd be cool if it was not in Vegas. I don't particularly like Vegas. I think it's like the shithole of the world.
It's overrated now, I think it is. But you know what? You're right, and I told this people, you can't have the Olympia in September. That's only 9 months from the last Olympia. You'd have to scale it back from December to November this year, and then maybe the year after go to October. You can't do it 3 months in 1 year,
Yeah, right. So make it at least like 10 and a half months, something like that.
Right.
But look, I just want to give a shout out to the Olympia organisers, and also to every other promoter that managed to pull off something, through that time. And people sitting on the sidelines, throwing rocks at the promoters and saying, oh, you guys don't care, you screwed up. You got no idea how much work you put into something that doesn't happen. And then when you have to move it at the last minute, knowing you're going to take a loss, and you do it anyway because of the fans and the athletes, that's a really good effort. So big shout out to all the NPC and IPB Pro League promoters that made shit work against the odds in 2020, and good luck to everyone for 2021, because we've got some more pain to go through.
Absolutely. Amen. I'm glad your gym's opened, Tony. I'm glad you seem like you're in a much better spirits, and good luck this year. And I'm sure you'll be coming in for updates and giving us what's going on. And as soon as you obviously have a definitive date for the Arnold Australia, even though it's going to be taking place exclusively, with Australian athletes, you'll please let us know.
Of course, Dave, and I always look forward to coming on your show, talking a little shit.
Yeah.
We've been doing it for a long time. So, much love to everyone out there, and thanks for all the messages of support and encouragement. There's no stopping.
Great, Tony. Great talking to you again. And guys, that's going to take us to the end of another RX Muscle News Update. I'm Dave Palumbo for Tony Doherty. We'll see you next time.